Welcome, everybody. I'd like to thank you all for coming to another series of our webinar brought to you by the Coalition of Refuge Friends and Advocates, as well as the National Wildlife Refuge Association. My name is Sue Wilder, and I am a board member on the coalition. Thanks for coming. Before we get into our presentation today, I'd like to thank all of you for attending. Please feel free to add your name and your organization in the chat box so we know who's with us today. It's always good to kind of see the community we're reaching out to. I'd also like to thank the other board members from Corfa. I see Joan Patterson is here, our president, and Cheryl Hart, our vice president, and others on the board of Corfa, as well as our members of the Refuge Association. I see Marco's on, and we have behind the scenes as our magician, Eden Taylor, who always is helping us out in the background. Thank you, Eden. For those of you that have not attended the webinars before, Corfa is a not-for-profit organization that partners with the Refuge Association to bring you webinars like this to help strengthen the friends groups across the country. So today you'll be in a community of all the friends groups that attend the webinars. So it's kind of a fun opportunity to meet other friends groups and learn about some things that will help us in the future as organizations. We will add the website and Facebook pages to our chat so that you can go and see more in detail about what Corfa does and what the Refuge Association's partnership is. We're glad to have you, and without further ado, I will turn it over to today's presentation, which is from Sarah Meyer at Balcones National Friends Group, and she will take it from here. Sarah?
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me today. And I just want to extend a warm welcome to all of you. I'm really looking forward to this presentation. I think we're going to learn a lot today together. I can't claim to be an expert in any one area, but I do have just some practical tips today that hopefully you can all take back to your groups and start thinking about how you can maximize your reach using social media. So I'm going to share my screen. We can get started here. When I first got on the call today, I was asked about these mountains. So this is not Balcones Canyonlands. I am the executive director for the Friends of Balcones Canyonlands. We're located just outside of Austin, Texas. We do not have mountains like this in Central Texas. But the picture felt fitting for today's presentation because, social media, we're not going to learn all this in one day. We're climbing a mountain. We need to have a plan. We need to have a team. You need to know where you're headed and have the right tools to get there. And I do think social media is one of those tools, but there's a lot of different paths you can take. There's some pitfalls you should be aware of. And I think, the picture just felt like it set the right tone for today's meeting. It is going to be somewhat broad strokes. I'm not going to go into deep detail about any one thing. That said, I am going to try and cover a broad range of topics. And if you've got follow-up questions after today or questions throughout the presentation, feel free to put them in the chat and we'll do some Q&A at the end. And I'm also happy to serve as a reference going forward after today's meeting. So if something excites you or you feel like you need more information or you don't quite know how to proceed, I'm happy to serve as a resource. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and kick things off. So this is our goal today. I'm hoping to help empower all of you as leaders at your friends groups with some practical strategies. We all have probably not enough resources to do the things that we want to do. Maybe you don't have enough people, enough funding. So we're just trying to all make it work. And I do think that social media is a great tool in that regard. You can reach a lot of people and you can connect with a lot of new audiences with some thoughtfulness and some planning. So that's what I'm hoping you leave the next hour. You're going to take a lot of notes and maybe feel excited, maybe feel overwhelmed. Maybe you'll run out of here and just, turn off your screen. But I hope that you feel like you have some quick things that you can actually do and implement that are going to make a difference. Our goal is to reach new people. We're serving public lands for the better public good. And I think in order to do that job well, we have to reach as many people as we can. Okay, so here's our why. There's a lot of people on social media. Um, Billions of people are using social media. So that's why it matters. As far as I'm concerned, it is not a question of if you should use social media, but how you should use it and which platforms are correct for you. And maybe we're going to use more than one platform. That's going to work best for you. But I do think it's a must. You have to have a presence on social media. Even if it's a small one, you have to be there. I think certainly younger generations are looking for social media to vet and make sure that the entities are legitimate. And so if you don't exist at all, that's an issue. It doesn't have to be great, but it should exist on the platforms. That's my opinion. And I would also say that social media is not meant to replace great programming. It's not meant to be the only way in which you're doing your work. There's important work happening on our national wildlife refuges and hatcheries every day. And you, your friends group, might be running some great events, some great programs. This is not meant to replace that. It's meant to serve as a supplement to that so that our work can be highlighted and it can be shared and that it's reaching the audiences that we need it to reach. And that might be a different audience that you're serving than you're serving right now. Okay, so audience, this is a big question, right? Who are we serving? Do you understand who you're working with right now? Do you have the audience that you want, or are you seeking a new audience? And I think this is a really important question for everyone to consider when they're doing their planning. You want to set a goal for who you're trying to reach out to and who you're trying to connect with, and why are you doing that? And that might be based on location. Maybe you want to hit the local community first. That might be based on interest. Maybe you're looking to connect with people that are passionate about conservation. Maybe you're looking to connect with hikers in your community. Maybe you're looking to reach a younger audience. I think you have to have those conversations as an organization about what your target audiences are currently and in the future. And then you're taking steps towards reaching more and more folks. And you're starting small and getting bigger and bigger as you expand and reach out. So I think thinking about that, the audience that you want to have is going to inform the content that you're sharing. It's going to inform the style of your messaging. I think oftentimes you can get trapped in the feeling of you're trying to reach the members that you already have and keep them informed. But I think I would encourage all of you to take a step back from that. You do want to serve your current audience, but you're also trying to attract a new audience and continue to grow the larger, the public so that they're informed about the important work that's happening on your refuges and across the country as a whole. So you want to think about that messaging that you're not just informing, you're inspiring and you're calling people to action for a reason. And so with that value set in mind, you can have some fun with your content. It doesn't have to be just basic information updates. It can be playful. It can be, silly videos. It can have some humor to it, and it can also be fact-based. So it's going to take the personality of your group, but you think about the audience you're trying to reach and how are they going to hear you, and you build your content around that. So one of the ways in which you can reach new audiences is through hashtags. So I know that's a scary word for some people. What is a hashtag? I've had this conversation with my mom like 3 million times. What does offsides mean in football, and what is a hashtag? So a hashtag is just a keyword, and it's a way to categorize so that when you're sharing information, if you want to find a bunch of information about, let's say, nature, you use the hashtag nature, it's going to compile that data for you. So it's just a keyword that helps to categorize. And in addition to doing that, it helps you reach people that have similar interests. So there's 5 different types of hashtags that you might want to consider using when you're trying to reach new folks. One of them is location. So that could be the name of your refuge. That could be the town that you live in. That could be your state. It could be a neighborhood. It kind of depends on your location and how broad the swath you want to capture. But that's one way in which people use it. If I'm going to do a post here at Balcones, I might say hashtag Balcones Canyonlands. I might say Austin, Texas. I might say Texas. It kind of depends on the message that I'm trying to share. But location is one way in which you can just hit your local audience or an audience you're seeking to connect with. Another example would be a brand. So branding. So if you think about a company like REI they have their opt outside hashtag. So if you use that hashtag, you're going to connect with folks that are following REI or have some similar interest to REI's audience. So that's a gigantic fan base, obviously, that you could potentially draw from. Another example would be a campaign. If you have a fundraising campaign, maybe you were participating in Walk for the Wild this year, and so use that Walk for the Wild hashtag. And that's just a way to group folks together, and so that you can see a compilation of material and content that's all related to the same subject. Industry, that could be conservation, that could be nature, that could be national wildlife refuges, that could be environment, sustainability. We're all kind of working within that space. And so those are the types of keywords I usually use when I'm doing some outreach. Community. So this can be all kinds of this can go in all kinds of different directions. It could be a neighborhood association. It could be a civic group. It could be any kind of group of people that share an interest and are part of some kind of organization. There's usually a hashtag that that identifies them. And that those are kind of fun. And I think those are a new way to kind of, it's like a little pat on the back to somebody, or like, hey, nice to meet you, kind of a thing. If you're looking for new people, this is a good way to do it. And I'll speak about this in more detail in a minute about how that actually works on Instagram as an example. And descriptive, this is what people generally try to do when they think they're first learning hashtags. If you put a picture of a flower, you're going to say like hashtag flower, or, this is a bobcat, hashtag bobcat. That's fine to be descriptive in those ways, but you're not going to make much headway just describing the photo that people already are experiencing. I think you should have a little bit of fun with your hashtags. In terms of how many to use, this is a question that gets asked a lot too. Some people say don't use more than 5, otherwise it's just crazy. I think in reality, stats would show that if you're using about 20 hashtags, you're going to get the most reach. So if you're wide variety of hashtags, about 20 of them, you're going to hit the highest market. That said, maybe you don't want to hit that high market. Maybe you just want to focus on a small group and you want to have your 5 that you're using based on the image or the video or the content that you're sharing. But I would say beyond 20 is just very extreme and unnecessary, and it'll just take too much time. Let's be honest. So have fun with them, but just think about them as keywords and categories. Okay, so selecting the right platform. This is a really important piece here. I would guess, I don't know your organizations specifically, but I think most friends groups probably have a Facebook page. That seems to be the most common platform that people use. Facebook is the largest social media offering. There's the most users on Facebook. So, that's a good place to start for sure. It's important to have a Facebook presence. We all know that. How often you use Facebook is up to you, but I don't think it's the only tool, nor is it the only platform you should use. And so today I'm going to focus on the three platforms I think are most beneficial in my experience working for the Friends group. There are, of course, many more that you could use, but today I'm going to talk specifically about Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. There's also Twitter/X. That's more of like a mini blog platform. Some people might use that. I know Oklahoma Fish and Wildlife has a great X profile. It's like very fun. They get lots of engagement. It's just fun to kind of learn from their strategy, but that is not a tool that we use currently, nor is it one that I think is probably most useful for most of these groups. TikTok, of course, you've probably heard of as well. I think TikTok is a great tool. We don't use it yet just because we don't have the right resources to use it effectively. I do think it's something that groups could aspire to, depending on who's in your network right now in terms of who can actually help you run the TikTok account. It's going to be more time consuming. You need to have like a team working on TikTok, in my opinion. And you're definitely going to reach younger folks there on TikTok, which is a good thing. And maybe that's something you aspire to. In the short term, I would say maintaining a presence on Facebook and building a presence on Instagram is probably going to be helpful for most groups, depending on where you are. But those are the tools that we use the most. LinkedIn, I will say, This is another example where you should have a LinkedIn profile. Whether or not you maintain it is okay if you don't have it that active. I think you just have to have a presence on LinkedIn, in part because it's great for board member recruitment and corporate sponsorships and just having that presence in the community. I think if you're a young professional looking for board experience and a group has a LinkedIn page, that's reassuring. If it doesn't exist on LinkedIn, that could be a cause for concern. I would also say it opens up new networks just by having a page that exists, because folks that are on your board, if they're working professionals, they can connect to your page and that connects you to their network unofficially, which is important. And I mentioned this earlier too, in an earlier talk about recruitment through LinkedIn. We do use LinkedIn all the time for board recruitment. And it's a helpful tool that can reach probably lots of folks that you're currently missing in the professional space. But maintaining content there would be a choice for each entity. I do think Instagram, Facebook are must-dos and should-dos and are pretty fun to do. I would also add that lots of folks have their Facebook and their Instagram connected to each other. So maybe you're sharing the same content on both platforms. We actually do not do it that way because based on our audience, we have different people on our Facebook page compared to our Instagram page. So we do not connect them. We run them differently. There might be some overlapping information, but I think it's proven really helpful for us to test different models of content on Facebook and Instagram because they're generally different audiences. Instagram trends younger. We've got lots of, I would say 20s to 50s on Instagram, and Facebook, while we have those folks, it skews a little bit older in terms of the people that are engaging with our content the most. So that's one of the ways in which we do it differently. We also use a lot of video content and reels on Instagram, and that is where we get the most bang for our time. And it's just a bit easier to do that on Instagram with a certain message that we're trying to get across, whereas Facebook we use differently. And I'll speak more about that in a moment as well. So in terms of the content, this is a big piece too. And this all ties back to who's your audience that you're trying to target, and what do you want them to do if you get their attention? So we always think about some kind of an action that you're asking for. Do you want them to volunteer? Are you hoping that they take a trip out to the refuge or hatchery? Are you hoping that they're going to become a donor of yours? Do you want them to attend an event? I think depending on what that call to action is going to inform the style of your content. And we try and make it fun. I would say less is more with the content. You want to focus on quality stuff, but it doesn't have to be blah. It should be fun. It should be an eye-catching image. You can be witty. You can be entertaining with it. You want to capture somebody's attention. And then once you capture them, what's next? And so I think thinking about it in those terms has been helpful for us when we're building out content and reaching new audiences. So I'll break this out into different platforms. So with Facebook, we use Facebook primarily for events, in part because we have this robust guided hike program. And our goal, one of the goals that we set up for ourselves is that we wanted to bring in new hikers each week to the Canyonlands. We didn't want to have the same folks coming over and over again. So one of our goals that we set for ourselves was to make sure we were hitting new folks every week. When we first started out, we were serving primarily our internal audience, our friends members, if you will. But it's really expanded beyond that to the point where we were having trouble filling hikes. And so we thought we have to do this differently. We have to do this better, so that we've got people on the trails that want to be there. And so Facebook has really been the answer to that for us. We decided that we would profile our events on Facebook. Every single hike we have has a Facebook event associated with it. That plays well on Facebook. They like events on Facebook. We get lots of interaction with our events on Facebook. And we also promote them through advertising. And I'll speak about that a little bit more in the future. But we do pay for some promotional ads on Facebook with our events, with the goal of driving people to the refuge, capturing their attention, informing them about the importance, and then converting them to supporters. And that's been hugely successful for us. We're casting a really wide net. We're trying to reach new audiences to come to our hikes. So that's the ask. We're offering free hikes. Please come join us. You can sign up right here, and that sign up link will drive folks to our website. And so we're getting lots of website views. We're getting lots of new memberships and lots of new donors. So that's been great. And I'll speak about that in more detail in a minute. But Facebook primarily for us is event-based. We're not sharing a whole lot of daily content about what's going on. We might share some updates. We might have some reflective posts after a large event. But really, we're just maximizing the events, and that is our primary draw to Facebook. For Instagram, we're having a lot of fun with videos on Instagram, and we're really using that as community sourcing. So when I say community sourcing, we talked about the hashtags and these categories. You can go to Instagram and you can type in the name of your refuge. So in our case, you can type in Balcones Canyonlands National Wildlife Refuge, and that itself can be a hashtag. It can also be a place. And so on Instagram, when you do that search, it'll pull up anyone that's ever posted a picture or a video on Instagram with that connection. So that was where we first started to think about who's already there, who's already visiting the refuge, and who's already promoting it that we don't even know about. And so that was our first low-hanging fruit, for lack of a better term. We're going to find people that are already using the refuge and already excited about it, and we want them to then learn about us. So it's like an introduction when you use those hashtags to sort people out. And we found that there were actually lots of people creating incredible content that perhaps do this professionally or do it better than we were doing it. And so we reached out to them to say, like, I loved this video. Do you mind if I share it? Are you familiar with our friends group? Did you know that we exist? Are you interested in helping to support or connect, or maybe we can do some joint joint information going forward? And people are usually pretty excited when when somebody else is offering to share their content. So it's an easy ask. You'll make plenty of new friends, trust me on that, by just saying, love this photo. Do you mind if I use folks going out on hikes that we weren't aware of, that were organizing themselves? We had lots of families that we found that way, that were posting great pictures of their kids on the trail. And we started just reaching out to them. On a message on Instagram has been the first entry for lots of our new supporters, just to say, do you mind if I use this picture in our upcoming newsletter? Are you interested in writing a blog for us for our upcoming newsletter? Those types of things. You want to have an ask, but you're also wanting to help them. And it's a collaborative approach. So I would say the visuals, the videos are important. But as I said earlier, keep it easy. You don't need to type in 7 or 8 paragraphs about this picture. People are not going to read that much. And so I think less is more when it comes in terms to supplemental typing of words. Most people want social media for the scrolling effect. They're scrolling, 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 scrolling. If you get them to stop for a second and read, they're going to read maybe 3 sentences. So hit the high points first. And then if you want to go into deeper detail, you certainly can. But less is more. I would say quality of the photos matters as well. And one of the ways in which you can improve the quality of your photos is by using a tool called Canva. This is a free service for nonprofits. You can sign up for a Canva account for free. I will share this resource at the end, but it's really a helpful way to make your content sparkle a little bit more, makes it look like it's meaningful, and you can create fun videos that way. You can create fun photo collages that way. You can type in websites and links for folks. You can use QR codes. You can do whatever you want to do, and it's really quite easy to use. And you can also use it as a team. So Canva is a great free tool to kind of elevate your quality of content. More on that later as well. Okay, so community engagement. This is a huge piece of why we're doing the social media game, right? We're not trying to make online friends. We're trying to make real friends. So we're reaching out to folks online in hopes that we are able to establish a strong connection with them, and they become actual supporters of the refuge, if not just general supporters of the values that the refuge is trying to instill. So that's our approach. We don't want to be social media famous. We want to be successful in terms of reaching a wide audience that is passionate about the work that's being done because they know about it. And our barrier for the last few years was that folks did not know what was happening at the refuge. They weren't aware of the importance or the significance. They didn't know that the group existed. Certainly our friends group, that they didn't know we were there. And so we're trying to approach community engagement with a lens of, this is our public land. It's your public land. It's my public land. It's for all of us. And so how do we work together to ensure it remains and that it's there for generations to come? So in terms of the engagement and the two-way communication, we can do this in a multitude of ways. I think really the biggest piece of this is by being actively committed to building a relationship with folks that you connect with online. So you need to be responsive to people. If they are engaging with you, you need to engage back with them. So that could be anything from they're sending a comment to you. You need to respond to the comment. You need to be actively present. If they are sharing your stuff, you thank them for sharing it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's really important to be active. If somebody reaches out to you and you do not respond, that's off-putting. So you have to be able to be engaged with them when they reach out to you. And so I think that's one of the things that each group needs to be mindful of. If you are going to promote yourselves through advertising, as an example, and you're going to be getting all of these comments and messages, you have to be prepared to respond to them, or you're going to lose folks. So I think, plan accordingly in terms of what you're able to do with limited resources. Okay, so here's the advertising. Here's my pitch for advertising and why this is helpful. When we first started out trying to elevate, I've been working with the Balcones Canyon Lands for about 2.5 years. And I would say for the last year or 18 months, we've really been pushing advertising. We've been testing advertising, I should say, and we've had great success. So we're continuing to do it. What's great about the Facebook advertising in particular is it can be targeted based on location or areas of interest. So what that means for us, and perhaps your groups have this as well. If we have an annual event, in our case, we have an annual birding festival, happens every spring. It's been happening for 20 years. But this past year, we decided we wanted to try and reach new folks through this. We have previously done ads in Cornell Magazine, Birders Digest. There's different things, print publications that we could use, and we have done that, but it's very expensive to do that. And what's great about the Facebook advertising is it's pretty cheap. All things considered, you can spend $20 on promoting a certain event, and you could reach 25,000 people. So that is for us, it's a better return on investment because we don't have to pay much upfront, and it's working. So for our birding festival last year, I did a test, and I did some research about where I thought the birders were. So I'm making some assumptions based on clusters of retirees with resource, with degrees. You can make your own checklist of the people you're hoping to reach for your event, whatever that may be. And so then I could target, like I'm gonna hit up Minnesota. I think there's people in Minnesota that love to come down to Texas in the spring And I bet they'd be excited about this birding festival. So I'm going to target Twin Cities area, or I'm going to target Arizona because I that here, and I bet there's people in Arizona that would be interested in this. I'm going to target Florida. I'm going to target California. I'm going to target New York. I'm creating lists of spaces that I'm trying to hit. And Facebook ads allow you to be really specific about location, age, interest, anything you want, really. And it worked. So every state that we ran an ad in, we got attendees to our bird festival last year. So that to me felt like, okay, that was a good test. I'm convinced. And so then we wanted to start testing that locally. So for our guided hikes, we were growing and growing our program. We had more and more hike offerings. We felt like we had kind of maxed out our current audience. If they had wanted to go on a hike, they already had, maybe they'd done it 10 times. And maybe we want to reach new folks. So we started using the Facebook advertising for guided hikes. So, in 1 week, we're going to pay, we started out small, $5. Let's just do a $5 ad and hit the 3 counties in which the refuge is located, because ours is a bit of a puzzle piece. And so we've got 3 counties that are nearby neighbors, we like to think. And so let's just do a targeted ad for those people. And sure enough, we started filling these hikes up with people that were brand new to our network, that had never interacted with our group before, and they were excited about it. And then they're sharing with their friends. And so then it starts to spread and starts to spread and starts to spread. So at this point, we probably currently run about 1 ad a week. And we spend no more than $20 on a single ad, usually less than that. And those ads are paid for by a donor. So we're not money out of pocket. It's a way in which we're utilizing a donor that's really invested in this program and seeing it succeed. So that's been a great opportunity for us to see significant growth. On average, since we started running these weekly ads, about 25 to 30,000 people are seeing our promotions each month. So that's a lot of folks that we're then converting into supporters of our friends group. We started tracking this at every board meeting that we have. We started tracking the impact. So we're analyzing our data, how many folks we're reaching, how many folks are transitioning to become members or donors, how many folks are attending our events, how many folks are returning to future events or becoming on our mailing list, kind of where are we seeing, is this meaning anything? Or are they just 25,000 people are going to see our ad and then nothing happens after that? And so we started being purposeful in our tracking, and it is working. We are seeing growth in significant ways across the board. And I think a huge piece of that is getting people out to the refuge, getting them aware that the refuge exists, and having some calls to action on how they can help. We've seen an increase in volunteerism, we've seen an increase in membership, increase in donations, et cetera. And so, I would say start small and test what works for you. It doesn't have to be the same as what we're doing. I think it depends on what you're hoping to get from folks. You can also just do a basic ad about your group. Maybe you have an open house once a quarter and you want to bring as many people there as possible. You could run an ad for that type of a thing. I would recommend, if you're going to run an ad, you have to have a clear action and a clear next step for folks, because that's when you're going to see the most engagement. You're asking them to do something, you're sharing something exciting with them, and then track your result. So here's this is a snippet from our Facebook. So these are the types of things we're tracking over time. This is for the last 28 days. This is for a single event. So we did 1 ad for a single event, and this 1 ad that ran for 7 days reached 17,000 people. If you're not sure what reach means, reach is defined as the number of unique individuals that are seeing your content. So it could have just passed by their screen. They didn't necessarily click on anything, but it was on their feed and they saw it. So that's a lot of people. And you can see then we've got 207 people that responded to an event. So that means they tried to sign up. Some of our most popular events, we get, we fill all the spots and we have 50 to 75 people on a waiting list. And so the need is there, the excitement is there, and the people are ready. And it's turned into a great opportunity for us to connect with a bunch of people that we've been missing, that had either never been out to the refuge before or didn't know that this was an offering that they could partake in. And they're telling their friends, they're telling their colleagues, they're bringing their families. It's really been incredible to see the impact. And so if you look at the 18 cents, 18 cents per event response, I mean, I think that's a pretty low investment. And I would say it's meaningful. So, you can start really small and just do a test. There's no harm in trying. And that's one of the messages I hope you leave with today too. Just give it a shot and see what works for you. This is not a one size fits all situation. Every group is going to have a different approach and a different need, but it's worth considering, and cheaper than a magazine ad. I'll tell you that much. Okay, so this is more about the measuring. We really needed to, we decided we needed to learn if what we were doing was working. Did it matter? And so I would encourage you to, if you're going to test out some new tricks and tools with social media, you have to have some way of tracking your progress to see if it's working. And then that helps to inform how you allocate your resources going forward. So that's how we kind of settled on, we're going to focus on the events on Facebook and we're going to do lots of video content in Instagram because our numbers indicated that's where we're having the most success. So we're going to continue to do that. And if we drop the ball in some other areas, that's okay, because this is where it matters most. So reach, engagement, and conversions are the things that we track. That's what I would recommend. Certainly reach and engagement. And all of that information you can pull from your accounts itself. You don't have to run those tabulations. They provide them to you. So you can go to your Facebook page and look at your data. It'll tell you over the last 90 days, last month, whatever you want to see, you can pull from Facebook. Same with Instagram. You can look at your report, your insight report, and it'll tell you how well you're doing. It'll tell you that your most popular posts. It'll tell you your most popular videos. It'll tell you the unique people that you hit. And so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. They have the tools for you. They have the data for you. And I would encourage you to look at that. This is one of the reports that I provide to my board at every board meeting. This is how we're doing. This is how we're trending. This is the percentage of growth we've seen. And so it's helpful to know if it's working, because we're all trying and it's new to most people. I don't think any of us, maybe some of you are, but are professional marketers. Like, this is just something we do in addition to what we're already doing. And so it's good to use the information, the data that you have to help inform your next steps. Okay, so partnerships and collaborations. This is one of the spaces in which social media can be really helpful too, because you can identify new partners that maybe you weren't familiar with before and work together on the content, work together on getting people excited about conservation. And this is a space in which we've had good success too, working with other nonprofit groups and other small businesses that are interested in investing in the same things we are. So you have to be aware of your values. You're going to have other people that might want to collaborate with you that maybe don't align exactly with your mission or your values. But if you do find those folks that align, it's a lot of fun. And I've learned a lot from the partners that we found through social media. So these are a couple of examples for us locally here at Balcones Canyonlands. These three entities I learned about from Instagram. So I had gone through that practice of looking for Balcones Canyonlands National Wildlife Refuge hashtags on Instagram, pulled up a list, and saw some really great content. And these were the folks that were putting out a lot of great content. So the Texas Trailhead is a Texas-wide organization, and they were doing all these great informative videos about hiking trails throughout Texas. And one of the places they kept coming back to was Balcones Canyonlands. And so they were taking videos, they were doing reviews, sharing great information, telling people how to get involved. They were connected with state parks, all this great content. And so I only learned about them because of Instagram. And I reached out and said, I really love your content. Would you mind if I use some of your videos? And not only did they say yes, but they said, like, how else can we help? And so when I was reading about their content too, they talked a lot about the values, benefits to mental health when you're spending time in nature, and the importance of being outside and the difference it made in their lives. And they had blogs about that, lots of great information. And so then I asked them if they'd be willing to write an article for our newsletter about their experiences and the importance that for their mental health about spending time in nature. Sure, yeah, absolutely. And so the relationship has evolved over time, in which now I considered us to be very strong partners. We help out whenever we can with their events. They do the same for us. We share each other's content all the time. So if we're having a big event and I want to help spread the word, I know that the Trailhead will help me, and they're going to reach a different audience than I have before me. So I use them to help spread the word, and vice versa. Roam the Outer Space, similar idea. This was actually one of our guided hike leaders. I realized after finding her on Instagram that she was a professional marketer, and she had a blog, and her whole premise was trying to reach young women and get women outside and get them to feel comfortable being outside and hiking if they'd never done it before. Teaching backpacking, teaching camping, all of these outdoor skills that she did not have the experiences as a child, and wanted to help other people become comfortable. And so same thing, she also wrote an article for us in our newsletter, and we share each other's content. And she's a great connection to have, and she's really tapped in to the 30 somethings in Central Texas, which was a group of folks that we were missing and trying to connect with. Connect and Hike, same. They were going out. This is a new group. This is a social group in Austin, but they've expanded across the country. So there is probably a Connect and Hike near you. But it's a social group. They get together, they hike, they go out to eat, they drink coffee, they have book clubs, they're doing all kinds of things. And it's mostly people 25 and above. Young professionals, I would say, is the primary draw. But they were coming out and hiking at the Canyonlands, and they didn't know that we existed, and we didn't know that they existed. But now we're working together. So we did a guided hike for their group specifically recently. They help. They've become members of ours. They become donors of ours. They come to events in the community that we're having. I was on their podcast. We're just doing all of these things to help each other because of that shared value system. And you're going to find these relationships that actually really matter online. And it's a great way to just see a whole swath of new folks that you had been missing. I think if you nurture those relationships and nurture those partnerships, it can really have a huge impact. And it opens up a whole bag of resources that maybe you didn't have before. So this is, we're talking results now. So as I started out, we want this to turn into something. We're not looking to become influencers ourselves. We are looking to reach people where they're at, and they're online. We know that. So we have been really surprised by the growth that we've seen by investing just a little bit more resource in social media. We have been able to increase awareness. We've been able to create new ambassadors that are out on social media saying great things about our friends group, saying great things about the Canyonlands, saying great things about the refuge system. And so they're working to spread the word because they care now that they know. We've seen a huge uptick in our event attendees. We are filling every event that we hold, mostly because of online promotion. We've nearly doubled our members. We have lots of new donors. Our group is trending younger and more diverse because we're reaching lots of new folks online. And our revenue has more than doubled from year after year. So for the last 2 years, last year we raised twice as much money as we had the year before. And I attribute a lot of that to all of these new folks that we're finding online. I think our work is meaningful and valuable, but if people don't know about it, they don't have a way to support it. And so I think that's one of the really important pieces of social media, is reaching these audiences and giving them an entity to support that matters. And people have choices with supporting nonprofit groups. So you have to have a presence out there. And the more and more that people see you, maybe they see a flyer in a coffee shop, they see a Facebook ad, they hear about a hike that a friend went on. All of those little touches are meaningful in terms of establishing yourself as an important entity and a cause worth supporting. Okay, so I'm about at the wrap up place, and I think we can drive into the questions here pretty soon. I guess I just want to say that I think social media can be confusing, and there's lots of ways in which you can use it. But I would encourage you just to try to test it, try to see how it works for you. Don't be scared to do it wrong. You can't really do it wrong. I think the only way to do it wrong is to not do it at all. So give yourself some grace and try it out and see what works for you. I don't think it's the case that every group will benefit from having Facebook ads for their events and reels on Instagram, but it's a place to start, and it's a place that's really worked for us. And much like you, we're a small team. We've got 1 to 2 people working on this social media work. So, and we don't do it perfectly either. There are weeks that it kind of slips off and we haven't done it enough, but it's okay because you're slowly building your base anyway. And once you've got these connections out, the work is happening, whether you're doing the clicking yourself or not, because the word starts to spread, then the net is cast wider and wider, and that's a good thing. Okay, lastly, these are just some resources. I know I touched on a lot of different things, and maybe some of you have questions about, like, how do I create a video on Instagram? Or how do I find my insight data on Facebook? So these are just helpful resources. I will say that Facebook in particular, it's the more you grow on Facebook, the more your spam will grow as well. So this is about the resources also. If you are going to be running ads on Facebook, you really have to be mindful of the security of your platform and make sure that you're removing spam, that you're not clicking on things you shouldn't click on. I think maybe 3 times a week, I get an email from some fake entity saying that I violated a Facebook policy and click on here to learn more, or you need to, your account has been compromised, so click on this link and we'll help you. Never do that. You're not going to hear a message from Facebook that way through Messenger. Those are all spam. So being mindful about when you're attracting attention, you're also attracting perhaps some attention you don't want. And so if you have numerous admins on your Facebook page, everyone should be aware. Never click on Instagram, but some folks might. But I would say if you go to these links, there's really a lot of helpful information. LinkedIn will kind of teach you about the advanced search as well for finding board recruitment tools. Canva, as I said, it's free for every nonprofit. And this link will walk you through how to sign up. You have to provide some paperwork to them, but then once you're in, you're in. And it's been a great tool for us too. Makes us look like we know what we're doing, even if we don't. Okay, I think that's it for me, but I'm happy to open the floor to all of your questions.
Great.
Okay, we'll get started, Sarah. The first question is from one of our board members, Amy. She wants to know if the events you were talking about advertising are free or if they're fee-based.
They are free. So all of the events that we're promoting are free events. Our guided hikes are the ones that we promote the most ongoing. And those hikes are hosted in partnership with the Refuge team, and they're all free.
All right, and Sarah,
Thank
the
you.
next question comes from Karen at Patuxent. And are these partner organizations, such as the Texas Trailhead and all, charging fees for their activities and end up using the Friends group to expand financial gain for their organization as they assist with your outreach and awareness raising? Or are...
No,
okay, go ahead, go for it.
they are not. So like the Connect and Hike, for example, they do not have any fees for their events. They're all free. Same with the Trailhead. They don't charge for their events either. You know, sometimes the entities might have merchandise or something they're trying to sell, but we do the same. So that part's even. And in fact, the Trailhead was a person that gave me a lead on a local supplier for t-shirts and hats and graphic design. And so I think if you find those folks where your values are aligned and their mission is the same as ours, they want to get people outside because they think it matters and it's important. And the more people we can serve, the better. And so we're aligned in that way. And so I don't, it's not been a situation where they're using us for their own gain. That it's been mutual beneficial.
Okay, thank you.
Great. How do you coordinate your social media with Fish and Wildlife?
We don't really coordinate with Fish and Wildlife. We're just going wild. They know about the programs, of course, that we're running, and I know our visitor services manager is often commenting and liking and sharing to her own personal networks. So they're aware that what we're doing, but we're doing all of our own content and just sending it out in the world.
And are the one or two people that are working on your social media volunteers?
One is volunteering, one is me.
Okay.
Okay, Karen Atwood again, about how long have you all been actively using these social media tools? How long were you doing it before you started seeing good results?
Good question. So we've had a Facebook page that far predates me. So I've been with the organization for 2.5 years. I think our Facebook page was established like maybe 15 years ago. And our Instagram account, I pretty much started the Instagram account when I came on board. So when I first started, we had a handful of posts on Instagram and maybe less than 100 friends, followers on Instagram. And we're over 1,000 on Instagram now and over 3,000 on Facebook. But again, our average monthly reach is about 25 to 30,000 people.
We have a comment from Gary, and he says he's noticed that when you are not advertising, Facebook reduces the reach for your regular free posting. And when you advertise, it increases the reach of your free content. Have you noticed the same thing?
Yes, I think we have seen that too, in part because they're trying to incentivize you continuing to pay for your ads. I think it's just hard to compare because when you pay even a little bit for the reach, and then when you don't do that at all, it's an extreme difference for sure. You know, you're not going to have 17,000 people see a regular event post. But I will say, if you are tagging folks efficiently, so maybe you do want to, this is just an example. We have an event coming up for spring break. We're going to have a family-friendly event for spring break. And I didn't want to pay, we chose not to do the ads for that one because it's a one-day, one-off event. And so we're not doing the advertising, but we are reaching out to our partners in the community. So there's an entity in Austin, for an example, that's Austin with Kids. They've got about 50,000 followers. And so I tag them, I reach out and say, can you share this with your network? And that gets me about the same reach for free. So I think it's being thoughtful about who you're asking to share your content. If you don't want to pay, there's ways to get around that. and still reach a really large audience that's not currently in your network.
Great advice. Next question. Does your refuge have their own Facebook and social media?
I think our refuge does have a Facebook account, but it's not often utilized. They do not have an Instagram account. But when I'm doing posting, I'm tagging U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, or I'm tagging National Wildlife Refuge Association, Public Lands Alliance, whatever feels most appropriate in the messaging. I will tag all of those entities.
So another comment from Gary. We have started using our Facebook postings in a creative way to reach our board members and membership that are not on social media.
I can explain if you would like.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the full question, I don't think.
It wasn't a question, it was a statement.
Oh, okay. Say it again, Gary.
So the issue is we have quite a few of our board members that are not on social media. We also have
Likewise.
a high percentage of our membership that's not on social media.
Mm-hmm.
So we've created this virtual world of our group that board members are not aware of. So what we've started doing is taking our Facebook, and then the other issues, how much time it takes to create content.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've started doing is when we do a posting on Facebook, we copy it onto a page on our website. We use Wix. That's a blog. So we can just copy photos, and so you're only creating one content. Then what we do is once it's on that blog, we link it on our email newsletter, like Monkey Chip, or we use Wix. Wix has their own. So once that newsletter goes out, people can link to an article on our webpage, which drives them to our webpage. But it's essentially the same thing that was put on Facebook.
Yeah.
But now we're hitting
Yeah,
Facebook people, and we're hitting people that are not on Facebook with the same content.
Yeah, that's a great point, because we have the same situation where not all of our folks are on social media. And so, yeah, they're not going to see the stuff. For our board, I kind of serve as the go-between, kind of sharing the types of things we've been promoting and kind of our success, as I discussed earlier. But just in terms of information, yeah, using your website, newsletters, blogs, those are all great ways, and you can use the same content twice or 3 times for that matter. So that's a good point. Thank you, Gary.
Can I just jump in here for a minute? I know we're reaching the top of the hour, and I appreciate everybody that can hang in there for a few more minutes for us. We're going great guns, so we're gonna continue with the chat questions and any other questions you might have. So if you like, you can stay on, but we'll continue on to the next few minutes after the hour. Thank you.
Okay, and Sarah, here's the next comment question. From Karen at Patuxent. You mentioned potential merchandise sale by friends or the partner organizations when you're doing things like the hikes on refuge property. Are you permitted to sell anything as part of those hikes, or are the partner organizations allowed to sell anything during the hikes? And do you hold any of these hikes offsite?
We do not. We mostly just push people to our website, and we have done giveaways at the refuge where we're giving away merchandise, and then simultaneously asking for donations. But no, we're not actually selling the stuff, nor are the other entities not selling on site at the refuge. We have had some offsite events where, like we met at a local brewery as an example, following a hike, and we've had some merch exchanges there. We've also talked about co-branding merchandise together so that we're sharing the costs with just kind of a generic hiking theme. I haven't pulled the trigger on that yet, but that is something we've been discussing with some of these partner entities. If we could do some t-shirts or hats or something together.
Okay.
So this one I'm really interested into. What's the difference between tagging and a hashtag?
Okay, so a hashtag is one of those keywords, which is the pound sign or the pound sign hashtag. Tagging somebody is like connecting it to a person or an entity, to their page or their individual directly. So like on your personal page, if you were to, maybe you've gone on a vacation and you want to tag, which means disconnect this to your friends, or identify the people in the photo, or identify the organizations that you're working with on this together. It's I don't know how to explain it, I guess, necessarily aside from that. A tag is like connecting an individual, and a hashtag is connecting a keyword.
That makes
Thank you.
sense.
Hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So what age groups do you see Facebook reaching? And also, what are the types of posts did you find generated engagement on Facebook?
So when we do our guided hikes, when we're promoting the guided hikes, which are anywhere from 2.5 to 8 miles long, we're trending younger for sure on our 8-mile hikes. I would say we're hitting folks in their 30s on average. On Instagram, I would say it's mostly women on both of those platforms as well. And that is a trend across the board. More women are on social media than men, in terms of at least daily interactions. Lots of men are using the tools as well, but for whatever reason, our engagement tends to be more women than men. I think there was a second part of that question that maybe I didn't answer, but.
Ooh, and I just blew away the question.
Hopefully I hit the high point there.
Yeah. What types of posts did you find generated the most engagement was the second part.
Okay. Yeah, our videos do best in general across the board, all age groups. But you can pull down that data from Facebook and Instagram too. The age ranges of the people that are seeing it, gender spreads, etc. You can look at that information.
We have one more tag question. So what does it mean?
Yeah.
I'll start over again. When you say you tag so-and-so, what does that mean? And what is it that one does to tag? And then Karen says, sorry, total social media ignorant here. But you're not the only one, Karen.
No, that's fine. So on Instagram, as an example, if I tag somebody, it's the @ symbol. So I'm going to say like @Sue Wilder. And then Sue's going to get a notification that I have tagged her in this post. So it'll show up on her page if she allows that. It also allows her to share it with her network if she chooses to. And she'll get dinged that this happened. So I gave that example about Austin with Kids. It's a group of like 50,000 families that are sharing free events happening in the Austin community. And so I thought, well, our spring break is well aligned for this. People are looking for places to take their kids for free. So I say @Austin with Kids, and then that page gets a notification that I've done this, and they usually send me a thumbs up, and then they share it to their network as well. So it's just a simple way to, it's like, I'm going to notify you that I would like you to share this content, and then you see if they do or they don't. And Facebook would be the same. It's the @. There's also, I think, a little, which looks like a little gift tag or something you can select, like a little blue gift tag, and that allows you to assign it to a person or an entity.
So Sarah, there are a number of thank yous for your great presentation, and Polly says you have inspired her to check their old or inactive Instagram account. And
Beautiful.
So things are we're already seeing action taken. Polly, thank you for letting us know that. And the last question is, when you do videos of your hikes on the refuge, do you ask people for their permission? Is there any forms that are signed by those participants?
We do. We don't have forms signed, but we do ask for people's permission if they're okay being shared. And lots of the hike content, when it's video form, it's people from the back of their head. So lots of them are not like fully identifying. But if somebody is highlighted or featured, we will get their permission. When I'm using other people's content, I'm just sharing because it's already been shared. So those folks that are taking videos out on the refuge already, I'm just pushing it out again.
So,
When you're-
does Canva edit video? Does Canva edit video? Yeah.
Yes, you can edit video there. You can edit, there's lots of different tools you can use to edit video. I find Canva just to be the easiest because I can do everything in Canva. Any kind of content design, this presentation I could have done in Canva. You know, you can do all kinds of stuff in Canva.
When you're putting items on social media, do you have
Right.
kind of control measures as far as it has to go through a couple people before it gets put on social media?
Good question.
Nope, just so we've identified our admins for our accounts, and those folks, the two people, myself and our volunteer, we put whatever we'd like to.
Can you
I
repeat,
think
can you
that's-
repeat that last part again? I don't think we caught it.
Oh, sorry. We do not have kind of steps of approval. We identify the admins for the two accounts, and then those two people have free reign to post what they think is most appropriate.
Okay.
I think
Wow.
a good way to do that would be to have the president of the group on Facebook, an administrator, and that person would only delete stuff. So if anything shows up that he or she doesn't think should be there, they can delete it.
In other words, it should be probably run through her before it goes on.
Now, the problem with doing it beforehand is a lot of stuff is timely. So you're depending on hearing back. It's much better if you throw it up there and let that person delete it if they don't like it.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly try and use our best judgment and keep it clean and appropriate, but we
Great.
don't have an approval mechanism.
Okay, well, I think
We have a request
Go ahead.
to
Go
share
ahead,
the
Cheryl.
contact information, and that will all be in the information that you received after the webinar. You'll get a recording and you'll get the slides and all of those kinds of things. So you'll be able to have access to that information. Okay, Sue, I'm through.
Okay, and I know you have another meeting to go to, so thank you, Cheryl,
Yep.
and thank you everyone for coming today, especially Sarah. Sarah, wow, I don't even want to stop talking about this because it's so exciting. I have like 3 action items on our friends list now to do, and Gary is on my friends of Louisiana, so we'll be talking. And so
Awesome.
thank you for that inspiration. It's been terrific. Again, like Cheryl said, everybody will get a copy of the slides, a copy of the recording, and if you attended the webinar, you'll get a copy of the chat log. We'll also post this recording on the website as well as the references that Sarah will provide or that we have in the slides. And then on to next month's webinars. We need to tell you about our exciting up and coming webinars on March 20th. We're going to have a talk by Libby Marking from the Refuge Association on our friends in DC updates for government affairs. So we'll find out what's happening in Washington, as well as on April 24th, we'll have Cynthia Martinez talking to us about Fish and Wildlife items with chat with Cynthia. So 2 exciting months ahead. Try to save those dates again, March 20th and April 24th. A great thanks to Sarah for doing a super job, and thank you everybody for attending. We'll see you on March 20th. Thank you.
Thank you all. It was fun.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah.
You're welcome.